Tell me, what would you sacrifice to escape a rescue that feels like a ransom? Amelia Walker hisses into the frigid dawn's soap suds, stinging the cracks in her hands while rows of empty stock pots echo her heartbeat. A week ago, the billionaire Nate Carter dropped into her shattered life like a meteor promising partnerships ovens that never cool, and a table where her daughter Lily could finally taste safety. Tonight, Amelia stands alone in St. Mary's kitchen, watching her breath ghost across spotless steel and wondering whether the reflection in staring back is a chef reborn or a pawn polished for display. Outside, the city storms with sirens and sleet, but inside, the greater clamor is the churn of her gut possibility or betrayal feast or famine love or debt. Two sets of keys burn in her pocket. One glints with promise, the other rattles like chains. Amelia presses her palm against the exit door, breath-held heart raging, and chooses nothing yet. Because before the next sunrise, she will confront Nate, and if you stay, you'll witness the single whispered word that turns their luxury dream into an earthquake no one could ever see coming. Stay tuned. The truth detonates at midnight. Amelia Walker had already scrubbed the last metal tray at St. Mary's Community Kitchen when the wall clock struck 4:55 a.m. The fluorescent bulbs overhead buzzed like tired hornets, casting a chilly light on her cracked hands. $10, that was all she had left, and New York's dawn air would swallow it in a single subway ride, let alone breakfast for a growing 7-year-old. She stuffed the money into her coat pocket and crossed the linoleum floor to a far-off corner where Lily slept, curled on a stack of flattened cardboard boxes, cheeks flushed pink from the cold. 5 more minutes, sweet pea, Amelia whispered, smoothing a stray curl from her daughter's forehead. Her voice wavered, but she fought to keep it buoyant. Lily trusted her mother's optimism more than any blanket. Outside, wind rattled the aluminum shutter. A late winter gust wormed through the doorframe and floated a paper napkin across the floor. A small, pointless rebellion against order. But Amelia felt it mirrored her own life perfectly, always drifting, never resting. 15 miles away in the glass crown of Carter Tower, Nathaniel Nate Carter stared at the final contract of the night. Another foreclosed apartment block snapped up another 7-figure profit logged. The city lights glittered below him like a sea of diamond chips, yet the view felt antiseptic, soulless. Nate closed his laptop, pinching the bridge of his nose. He should have felt triumphant. Instead, a dull ache settled beneath his ribs, the same ache that had visited every night since his mother died and left him alone at 32, with more money than memories. His assistant Jordan poked his head through the door. "Need anything else, sir?" "No thanks. Go home." Nate forced a smile. As the elevator descended 40 floors, he thought of the champagne waiting in his Upper West Side penthouse. The custom playlist cued on his surround sound, small rewards for a self-made empire. Yet when the elevator doors parted onto the dim garage, he hesitated. The cavernous silence echoed back a truth he rarely voiced. He had no one to share the triumph with. Minutes later, his BMW hummed through deserted avenues toward Brooklyn. Sleet peppered the windshield and Nate gunned the wipers. At Atlantic Avenue, the light turned red, and he rolled to a stop beside a lonely bus shelter. A woman stood there, head bowed, hugging a sleeping child. Her coat was thin, her posture rigid with exhaustion. Something about the scene bruised him a memory of his mother grabbing his hand on freezing mornings when they caught the early train to her housekeeping job. The crosswalk timer clicked down. Nate's foot hovered over the gas, but he couldn't look away. Then a lanky teenager appeared, hands jammed in a hoodie, eyes darting. In one swift motion, he yanked the strap of the woman's canvas tote and sprinted. The woman Amelia, though Nate didn't yet know her name, lunged instinctively, caught her balance, and shielded the child instead of giving chase. The thief vanished into a side street with her last $10 and a week's worth of pride. Horns blared behind Nate. The light had turned green. He might have sped after the boy. He might have sped away and tried to forget. Instead, he idled, fists white on the steering wheel, trapped in the split second where two paths diverged. At last, the horns jolted him forward and he drove on, yet the image welded itself to his thoughts. He barely slept. Half-dreams replayed the theft again and again, the mother's reflex to protect the girl's limp arms, the useless pile of cardboard beds. By 6, he was dressed and back in the car, caffeine burning his veins. Logic told him he was being ridiculous. Compassion insisted he was already too late. He found them exactly where he'd left them, except the child was awake, balancing on the shelter bench and humming to herself. The woman's shoulders sagged in relief when sunlight glanced off the plastic roof until she spotted Nate's tailored coat and meticulous haircut stepping toward her. In Manhattan, men like him bought buildings. They didn't loiter at a bus stop in Brooklyn. "Morning," Nate said, keeping his voice low so he wouldn't spook her. Up close, he saw the fatigue etching her face, the frost bloom on her lips. "I noticed you two were still waiting. Thought maybe you could use a cup of something hot." "We're fine," she replied, adjusting the little girl on her hip. Her tone was neither hostile nor friendly, just tired beyond measure. The kid studied him with fearless curiosity. "Mom, he's the driver with the shiny car." She grinned. "Hi, Mr. Shiny Car." Amelia's cheeks colored. "Lily Manners." Nate laughed, surprised by how easily it came. "Mr. Shiny Car, that's me." "And you must be Lily." The girl nodded. "Mom says strangers are danger, but I think maybe you're just lonely." The statement hit him like black ice. He knelt to Lily's eye level. "You're very perceptive." Amelia shifted uneasily. "Look, sir, we appreciate your concern, but we don't need charity," Nate finished for her. "I get it. How about a loan, a temporary interest-free breakfast loan, payable whenever you're a millionaire?" Lily's stomach chose that moment to growl loudly. Amelia sighed, fighting a battle between pride and maternal instinct. "If we accept," she said slowly, "we choose the diner. Deal." They walked 2 blocks to a greasy spoon whose neon signs sputtered like a dying firefly. Amelia insisted on ordering, keeping one eye on Lily, the other on Nate's hands, ready it seemed to grab her child and run if he so much as blinked wrong. Nate handed the waitress 3 mugs, letting his fingers linger around the warm ceramic before sliding one to Amelia. As Lily demolished pancakes, Nate stole glances at Amelia, the deft way she rationed her own eggs, pushing the larger half to her daughter. The quick, practiced smile she flashed the waitress. The tiny scar above her eyebrow, kitchen accident, he guessed. He cleared his throat. "I'm Nate Carter," he began. The name meant Towers headlines, Forbes covers. Here it earned nothing but a polite nod. "Amelia Walker," she said. "This is Lily." Conversation moved cautiously. Amelia revealed she'd once owned a cozy bistro on the Lower East Side, shuttered when lockdown gutted foot traffic. She'd burned savings on rent-sold equipment for pennies and spent 2 years chasing gig work that could accommodate a child too young to leave alone. Now she swapped dishwashing shifts for shelter nights at St. Mary's. Nate listened, shame prickling under his starched collar. He'd purchased 3 failing cafes last winter, flipped them to luxury brunch chains, and boasted about the margins at shareholder dinners. One of them could have been hers. When plates were cleared, Amelia reached into her pocket. Realization dawned. Her tote, her money, everything had been stolen. She swallowed, hard fists clenched on the Formica tabletop. Nate fished out $40 and set it beside the receipt. "Consider the ROI when you're famous again," he joked. She looked ready to refuse, but Lily tugged her sleeve. "Mom, let's pay him back later, okay? I'm really warm inside now." The mother's eyes glistened. Pride bent but did not break. She picked up $20, slid it back across the table. "Half. A partnership should start even." Nate's pulse skipped. A partnership. The word tasted like possibility. Outside, sleet had thickened to snow sugar coating the empty playground across the street. Lily pointed. "Mom, look, first snow of the year. Can we go over there?" Amelia opened her mouth to decline sleep warmth, anything but the biting wind, but Nate spoke first. "I'll push the swings. You two set the rules." That earned him Amelia's first genuine smile, small but unmistakable. "1 hour," she said quietly. "No more." They crossed the slushy asphalt toward the swings, one improbable trio stitched together by hunger snowflakes and an unanswered question pulsing in every adult heart. What happens after the hour is up? We'll pause the tale here. Thank you for sticking with us through this first chapter. If you were in Amelia's shoes, would you have trusted Nate enough to accept that loan or walked away? Share your thoughts below, and if this story touched you, please drop a heart and give the video a like so we know you're with us on this journey. Snow kept falling long after the swing slowed, dusting the skyline with hesitant white. By the time Amelia called last slide, dawn had broken in earnest, and Nate drove them back to St. Mary's with the heater roaring and Lily singing off key to the radio. He meant to drop them at the door and disappear, but Lily handed him a paper cup. For tomorrow, she announced water, half-melted ice, and exactly 2 jelly beans floating inside. Nate accepted the gift like a royal medal and promised to return. He kept that promise the next afternoon, and the next until routine quietly replaced coincidence. Every day at 2, Nate slipped out of Carter Tower, swapped his blazer for rolled-up sleeves, and reported for duty in the fluorescent kitchen. He rinsed pots, ferried crates, learned the choreography of a place where hunger trumped pride. Amelia watched with guarded eyes. Was this curiosity or penance? Either way, Lily adored him. Soon the girls' laughter bounced off tile walls that had known mostly silence. Nate discovered things. Amelia could stretch a bag of bruised vegetables into 50 bowls of soup without losing an ounce of flavor. Lily could recite every stop on the F train, though she'd never ridden it end to end. And Nate could feel his pulse quicken for reasons that had nothing to do with spreadsheets. 3 weeks and calamity struck. A city inspector marched through the door badge, flashing like a storm warning. Anonymous complaint, he barked, wielding a clipboard. Grease trap, too small. Fire extinguisher, outdated freezer temperature. Borderline, 1 infraction would shutter St. Mary's for months. Panic rippled through the volunteers. Grace Mitchell tried to reason with the man, but policy was policy. Amelia felt the air leave her lungs. If the kitchen closed, dozens of families would lose their only reliable meal. She stepped forward, voice steady. "Give us 1 hour. Let me fix what I can, then you'll inspect." The inspector's eyebrows shot up. No one negotiated with City Health, but something in her eyes betrayed both desperation and competence, and he nodded once. Amelia launched into motion, scrubbing, sanitizing, delegating like a seasoned general. Nate disappeared, phone plastered to his ear, calling in favors from contractors who owed him more than 1 late-night rescue. 58 minutes later, the inspector rewalked the premises. New fire extinguisher installed, grease trap, cleared freezer, calibrated. He signed the pass sheet with a grunt. As he left, Nate slipped him a business card. "Call me if anyone tries to shut them down again." And Amelia realized 2 truths at once. She'd saved the kitchen with knowledge. He'd saved it with leverage. Both mattered. That night, while sweeping peanut shells from the floor, Nate cleared his throat. "You once owned a bistro." "I did," she said, keeping her eyes on the broom. "What would you do if someone fronted the Capitol to open another?" She froze. Pride flared, then hope, then fear of the cage hidden inside a gift. "Depends on the strings." "No strings. 50-50 partnership. You run the kitchen, I handle the paperwork." Lily squealed from across the room. "Mom, that means new ovens, slow down bean." Amelia's heart hammered. A future uncurled before her. Real rent, real school, real home. "We talk terms in daylight," she said at last. The next morning, they drafted a promise on a diner napkin: equal voices, equal risk, equal reward. Amelia tucked the napkin into her wallet the way others might tuck a photograph of a lover. Nate felt lighter than he had in years, thrilled and terrified by stakes no ledger could quantify. But habits die hard. Nate launched a covert hunt for the perfect venue: windowed corner lot on Bedford Avenue, exposed brick room for 40 covers. He pictured Amelia plating pasta under Edison lights, Lily doing homework at table 11 himself, greeting diners who had no idea this was the first time he'd cared more about applause than margin. Corporate predator instincts sniffed opportunity elsewhere too. A developer offered to buy St. Mary's entire block cash, up front for a luxury food hall. The figure was obscene enough to double Nate's quarterly earnings. At a board meeting, Jordan slid the proposal across sleek walnut. "You could keep the new restaurant as anchor tenant," he noted, "and still walk away filthy rich." Nate stared at the sheet. The numbers shimmered like mirages, but in the reflection of the polished conference table, he glimpsed Amelia's face the day the inspector walked in, clear, determined, real. He pushed the offer back, not interested. Jordan blinked. "Sir, that's high sevens. Profit families eat there. Offer's dead." Nate adjourned the meeting to stunned silence. As the elevator descended, he wondered whose voice had just spoken from his throat and why it felt astonishingly right. Still, he kept the Williamsburg property secret. He wanted to present Amelia with a finished dream ribbon, included the instinct of a man who'd always solve problems by over-delivering. He hired designers, ordered appliances, scheduled a surprise reveal. Every decision made without her was meant as devotion, but the line between devotion and control is perilously thin. 2 days before closing, Lily left a crayon drawing in Nate's car. Amelia trekked to Carter Tower to fetch it. Security waved her up. "Mr. Carter," said, "your family." On the 42nd floor, she followed voices to an open conference room and stopped cold. Through the half-closed door, Nate's excited timbre floated out. "Open kitchen, here marble bar. They're nothing but the best for her. The place has to be flawless. She never even has to see the raw numbers." Laughter from a decorator. Someone joked about Cinderella dining on Nate's dime. Amelia's face burned. Flawless. Never see the numbers. She pictured the napkin contract in her wallet ink already fading and felt foolish for believing a billionaire could share power. Pride surged. Oxygen fled. She slipped away unseen, leaving Lily's picture on a receptionist's desk like an afterthought. That evening at St. Mary's, Nate noticed absence the moment he stepped inside. No Lily laughter. No Amelia stirring soup. Grace met him, arms folded. She took the late shift off. He called, texted, silence. At midnight, he found himself outside St. Mary's again, snow soaking his hair, staring at the dark windows where her silhouette should be. For the first time, he understood how a man with everything can still feel bankrupt. Inside a borrowed hostel room, Amelia lay awake. Lily snored softly beside her, blissfully unaware. Amelia replayed the conference room words, each one a pinprick, flawless dime, never see. The city's neon crawled through cracked blinds, striping her doubt. Was she running from a lifeline or from a gilded cage? Dawn would demand an answer. We'll pause the story here because sometimes the longest night is the one just before a decision. If you were Amelia, would you confront Nate or cut ties to protect your dignity? Let us know your thoughts below. And if this chapter kept you on edge, please tap that heart and give the video a like so we can keep sharing their journey with you. Morning tiptoed into Brooklyn, wearing a fragile blush of rose gold. Amelia had watched the color bloom through the hostel window all night, wrestling a single question: run or reach back. At 6 o'clock, she rose, tucked the napkin contract into Lily's coat pocket, and slipped downstairs. Her mind was a pendulum swinging between the fear of being controlled and the ache of losing something real before it had the chance to live. Meanwhile, 20 blocks north in Carter Tower, Nate's corner office looked like a crime scene of abandoned ambition. Blueprints-strewn presentation boards upended a coffee mug, shattered in last night's frustration. Jordan found him there, staring at the keys to the Bedford Avenue property. "Boss, you canceled everything. Decorators, deliveries, I canceled a partnership," Nate muttered without her consent. He turned the keys over in his palm. "I need to fix what I broke," with words, not marble countertops. Jordan hesitated, then placed Lily's crayon drawing on the desk, the forgotten picture of 3 stick figures under a sun labeled "Our Restaurant." "Maybe start here." Snow still filmed the sidewalks when Amelia reached Central Park. She'd chosen this place deliberately: open air, neutral ground, no walls to echo regrets. She spotted Nate first, pacing near the carousel like a man rehearsing a closing argument. He saw her and froze, relief and panic colliding behind his eyes. Before either could speak, Lily barreled ahead. "Nate, we missed you." Amelia's pulse pinched. She let her daughter hug him, but her own arms stayed folded. Nate knelt, returning Lily's embrace, then looked up at Amelia, silent plea, no arrogance. "Walk?" she asked. They followed the perimeter path, Lily skipping ahead to scoop snow into pretend cupcakes. Silence stretched brittle as icicles. "I overheard your meeting," Amelia began. "You planned every detail. Without me." Nate's shoulders sagged under the weight of his admission. "When you've spent your life negotiating hostile takeovers, you stop asking permission. I thought if I delivered perfection, you'd never know how scared I was to lose you." "Perfection isn't partnership," she replied. "I don't need flawless. I need a seat at the table." Icy wind whipped her words away, but Nate caught their meaning. He reached into his coat and produced the keys, dropping them into her gloved hand. "Here, sell it, keep it, burn it, your choice. I won't move an inch unless you move first." Amelia closed her fist, feeling the cool metal bite. Trust, she realized, was not a gilded cage, but a door she could open or close. She tucked the keys into her pocket next to the napkin contract. "One condition," she said. "Every decision menu tile color kids' portions gets 2 signatures." Nate's laugh cracked like ice under a sudden sun. "Make it 3. Lily insists on sprinkles." Lily cheered from the swing set, apparently hearing only her name. Amelia allowed herself a cautious smile, the kind you test before giving it freely. Then let's pick paint swatches, she said together. 6 months later, hearth and home smelled like rosemary bread and fresh paint. Opening night thrummed with nervous energy, tables gleaming copper pans polished Nate, and rolled shirt sleeves, checking that every guest had water. Amelia worked the pass with calm command, plating seared salmon as though she'd never lost a step. Lily, wearing a miniature apron, delivered bread baskets and compliments with equal zeal. At 7:30, the improbable happened. The neighborhood transformer blew. Darkness swallowed the dining room, and a collective gasp rose from 40 patrons. For one terrible heartbeat, Amelia felt the old terror that life would yank abundance away the second she tasted it. Then Nate's voice rang out steady as cathedral bells. Phones on flashlight, folks. Dinner by candlelight is way more romantic. Someone laughed, tension easing. Grace dashed to the storage closet for votives left from a supplier's expo. Lily handed them out like golden tickets. Jordan sprinted 2 blocks to a hardware store and talked his way into borrowing a portable generator, promising the owner lifetime free dessert. 15 minutes later, the restaurant glowed with dozens of flickering flames. Shadows danced over exposed brick. Strangers leaned closer to be heard discovering conversation. Amelia cooked on backup gas burners, improvising side dishes her mother once made during blackouts in Queens, simple, soulful, impossible to replicate under fluorescent glare. The crisis transformed into theater captured on patrons' phones and posted with hashtags that began trending by dessert. Jagger, hearth and home. Lights out but hearten. When power finally hummed back, applause erupted. Amelia glanced across the pass at Nate and saw not the billionaire savior of magazine covers, but a man dusted with flower hair, singed by generator fumes, grinning like a kid who just won a snowball fight. In that instant, she knew they hadn't opened a restaurant. They'd opened a refuge, proof that scarcity could be turned into feast when people combined resources instead of hoarding them. 2 weeks later, an unexpected visitor arrived during the afternoon lull, a tall man with Lily's eyes and a lawyer at his elbow. Amelia's heartbeat stuttered. Brandon, Lily's biological father, had resurfaced once the restaurant's viral success hit local news petitioning for custody on grounds of improved personal circumstances. Nate stepped forward, protective instincts coiled, but Amelia touched his arm. "My fight," she whispered. In the office, she faced Brandon across a polished desk, symbolic battleground between past abandonment and present strength. She spoke of night buses, soup lines, Lily's asthma attacks soothed with borrowed inhalers, of a child who needed stability, not sporadic guilt. She offered visitation, not ownership. Brandon's lawyer rattled legalese, but the man's resolve disintegrated under Amelia's unwavering calm. He withdrew the petition, signing a simple agreement to pay child support and earn trust over time. Outside, Amelia breathed in the yeasty warmth of rising dough and felt lighter than she could remember. She had fought with dignity, not vengeance, and won on her own terms. Nate waited by the hostess stand, worry etched into his brow. "How'd it go?" he asked. "Lily keeps her home," Amelia replied, "and I keep my partners." He exhaled, relief stirring amusement. "You know you terrify me every time you choose bravery over the easy route." "Get used to it," she teased. That night after close, they locked the front door and stepped onto Bedford Avenue. Snow began to fall soft and tentative, as if granting benediction. Lily twirled beneath the street lamp, catching flakes on her tongue. Nate wrapped an arm around Amelia. "Remember the first snow?" he murmured. "I remember a stranger with a shiny car," she said, leaning into him, "and a mother who almost let her fear blind her to possibility." Nate kissed her forehead. "Here's to possibility." Above them, hearth and home sign glowed warm amber against the night letters, chosen together, lit by power they now understood was never truly theirs, but always shared. 2 questions for you, our listener. When the lights went out, would you have stayed for candlelit dinner or headed for the door? And do you believe everyone deserves a second chance? Or are there lines that once crossed can never be uncrossed? Let us know how this story landed with you. Comment Noba 3 if you loved it, Noba 1 if it missed the mark, and Noba 2 if you're somewhere in between. Tell us which country you're watching from, and don't forget to tap that heart and share the video, so Amelia, Nate, and Lily's journey can inspire someone else to keep believing in their own fresh start.